With MSONEWSports, I'm Rick Moore, and we're joined now from the mayor's office, Gloucester Mayor Greg Verga. Mr. Mayor, good morning and welcome back.
Good morning, and thanks for having me again.
Always good to see you. Summer rolling right along. We're in the midst of the dog days. We've had a long, hot spell. Right now, we're in for a few days of rain, I guess, as we record this. I recently talked with the Gloucester Fire Chief, and he gave us some tips on being careful with fire during the summertime, and especially with dry conditions. But on the other side of the coin, the beaches have been very busy from what I can see. And maybe you could just give me a quick idea of how that parking situation has been going and how things are at the beaches.
Yeah, well, actually, I had a meeting yesterday with our CFO, and we touched on beach revenue, and it's actually ahead of where we expected at this point. So we're off to a good start. And, I have to give a shout out to the people on staff here who helped put together the beach reservation system, because that has almost instantly reduced, in some cases, eliminated the traffic gridlock we saw every year, pretty much from Memorial Day to Labor Day, up until about 3 years ago when we first introduced the system. So it's really had a positive impact on the traffic flow around the West Gloucester area, the East Gloucester area. So again, folks out there, if you're looking to come to our beaches and you don't live in Gloucester and have a beach sticker, go online and download the app for Blink, and you can reserve your spot up to 10 days in advance.
Okay, before we get to your agenda, I have one question that I cleared with you, and I think it's appropriate. I've noticed a lot of the construction going on in Gloucester. We've had a couple of new schools. The police station absolutely needed renovation. That has been done. There's a new affordable housing complex now where the old YMCA used to be. The library is under construction.
Mm-hmm.
And I walk pretty much every day, 3 to 5 miles. And when I do, I always go by fire headquarters. And I'm just wondering, what's the status? Are there any plans for Gloucester to be updating the fire station or maybe getting a new one? Because I know there was discussion, and this did not involve you, when the Fuller School was being demolished, that perhaps public safety buildings could go up there. That didn't happen. So what is going on, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I don't want to relitigate the past. I was supportive of putting something up at the Fuller School site other than what became of the site, which, in retrospect, turned out to be a positive thing. But my idea was, we had property the city owned. We should have used it for city uses first. Water over the dam, under the bridge, plug-in metaphor here. But this fire station, if when you walk by, you'll see chipped into the granite there. It's from 1926. Calvin Coolidge, former Massachusetts governor, was the president at the time, and we're closing in on its 100th anniversary. And it really should have been not a new station should have been put together somewhere in the past, but we are where we are. It just doesn't. It's not in the cards to renovate that. It's too small for where it is, the location. We have to take several properties in the neighborhood, which are housing now, and just to expand the footprint. It's been tough. They looked at Fuller a few years back. They looked at Blackburn, the industrial park. There are a couple of other options we have. Unfortunately, where we are now, based on the cost of building, it's probably in the $35 million range to build a new fire station. And as we've talked about on this show several times, and we recently pulled the trigger on, is the secondary wastewater treatment plant expansion, which is a $206 million project. And the city council recently voted to authorize the borrowing of that money. So that really impacts our ability to borrow for any more major projects for the foreseeable future. But we do definitely need to do something about the fire station, and we're keeping all options, we're keeping our eyes out for all options that may be out there. So as you know, the state has a school building assistance program that helps fund, to the tune of 40 to 55% of the cost of a new building. And we did very well with our reimbursement for both West Parish and the East Bet School. And there has been talk, so far just talk, about the state setting up a similar system for safety buildings. That would be a game changer. If they did create that system, we were able to get in the pipeline and receive roughly 50% of the funding back. That would really help us move this along. But right now we have to get situated with the sewer treatment plant, the actual construction and completion of it, the funding of it, and then the completion of these other projects. So we can sort of segue into those projects if you want the updates. So the police station, early in July, was the basement level, Roger Street level, Main Street level were completed. So the court system had moved out. They were upstairs, second floor. They had moved to Peabody, and the police department temporarily moved up to the space on the second floor. And that allowed the police section to be renovated. So that's complete. I toured it a couple of weeks ago. I'll be going back again Thursday now that they've moved back in. The courthouse should be done, I believe, by next summer at the latest. And people may recall this started as a $600,000 project that was supposed to look at. If you walked around the police station, you would have seen sticking out of every window was a window-mounted air conditioner. Not really the way you do office buildings. So it wasn't very efficient. So the original project was to look at window replacement and an HVAC system. Then when I came into office, that $600,000 project had ballooned to about $8 million and then just kept working its way up. Each month I'd get a report like, oh, now it's 12 million, now it's 50 million. Then I says, okay, put the brakes on this. What's the status with the courthouse? Because there's been concern that the courts might just say, yeah, we're moving up. We're consolidated enough to be Beverly or Salem. We don't need a Gloucester courthouse. So I wanted to make sure, A, they were staying, and B, if they're going to stay, they really should help us out because their lease at the time was something like $1 a year or some completely nominal fee. So the final number was about $19 million. We did get a commitment from the court system for a new lease, and the lease will equate to about $5.3 million over the next 30 years. So they are paying for about a third of the project, which is about how much space they use of the building. So I at that point, once we got that commitment, I says, let's move forward with the project. And now here we are, about 2/3 of the way through the project. Library's moving along. I'm going to get a tour of that, I think, next week. I get to see the construction outside of my window every day. It's very exciting. Their fundraising is doing okay. We still need money. If people want to go to the library, they can find Sawyer Free Library online, make a donation. If you want some naming rights, make a big donation, and we'll take any size. So, and you saw recently in the paper that they got $1 million through the efforts of our federal delegation down in Washington. So that's great. I think they still are about $10 to $11 million left to raise for the project. So we have an agreement where basically the city of Gloucester, to sort of explain it in a simplistic way, we co-signed the loan. So the city council authorized the borrowing of a full $29 million for this project through fundraising and grants and other opportunities. They've raised about, I guess now about $18 million, if my numbers are right. So we're heading in the right direction. And so the project is moving along. And the goal was that as the bills came in, we would have enough money raised to pay the mortgage and not use city funds. But we're on the hook for the whole amount until the whole amount is paid back through the library fundraising efforts.
Okay, speaking of funds and so on, I read in the paper, and I can't put my finger on it, but it seems there have been some funds coming in from the state and the federal government recently.
Well, for the library in particular?
No, just in general for cities and towns.
Yes. Oh, right. They had the earmarks in the paper just yesterday before. So the budget was finalized. So when we build the budget, we basically start the day after the budget's passed because it's always evolving. And then as we move along, our budget is based on what the governor proposes. Because it starts with the governor. It's sent over to the legislature, and then usually the House will put forward their version, and then later on the Senate will put forward their version, and then they have a conference committee to hammer out the differences between the Senate and the House versions. So when we built our budget, it was based on what the governor was talking about. In the end of our budget, what we passed by July 1, this past July 1, was based on what the Senate was working with. The conference committee did the work. The governor signed the budget, and in the end, we ended up receiving about an extra $95 $12,500 or something for unrestricted government aid. And I had already committed that that would go to the schools. Any new unanticipated, unbudgeted state funds would go to the school department. We also received, there's a thing called the cherry sheet, because the sheet literally used to be cherry colored, that shows the goes into and the goes out to for state funding stuff. We had to pay the state, stuff the state pays us. And so we had that $95 and $500 additional money we hadn't counted on. But then we had about $250 or $290 million, 250 or $290,000, sorry, that was unanticipated increase in the out of district school tuition. So basically school choice out. So I kept to my promise that the schools are going to get the extra almost $96,000, and the city is going to end up eating that nearly $300,000. And you may recall during the budget discussions, there was this pushback about, where's all the state aid going that should have gone to the schools? And I kept saying, well, outside of the schools allocation of about $50 million, the city pays for, as of last fiscal year, $22 million of other stuff, whether that's school choice out, whether it's the cost for tuition at the Essex Tech, or the mortgage, our share of the mortgage at Essex Tech. And so I highlight this to demonstrate that already within a month of being in the new budget, we already got hit with an extra $300,000 of school expenses that are being borne by the city side. So it's not a pretty picture. I mean, the revenues at the states haven't really bounced back yet. So we're not sure what next year's funding will be for unrestricted aid and local aid.
All right, well, let's end on a good note.
Let's try that.
Yeah, let's try it, see what happens here. Some major events in the summertime in Gloucester, including the Fiesta and all the sporting events and the carnival and so on, the Horribles Parade. But then at the end of summer, Gloucester has something unique. I think it's labeled the Schooner Festival. So tell me a little bit about maybe what you foresee.
Sure. So Schooner Fest, if you like old boats, old schooners, you're in the right place. So Labor Day weekend, you can go to Maritime Gloucester's website for all the details and the schedule of events. But it's an exciting time. Last year, we had an overabundance of schooners because it was our 400th anniversary. And I think there were something like 40 out there. But we're still going to have a good number this year from, all over the world, pretty much they come. So there'll be the events, there'll be the races, there'll be chances for people to do a deck tours of several of the schooners. Obviously, you can buy a ticket and go out on a harbor cruise on several of these schooners. Incidentally, folks, you can do that year round. We have 3 or 4 schooners that are based out of Gloucester, and maybe not year round, but during the boating season. So if you miss Schooner Fest, you don't miss out because there's still several other weeks, but don't miss Schooner Fest.